Amy, what is our first main topic today?
Our first topic today comes to us from Jeff Singer. Hi, John. Today, July 13th, is Harrison Ford's 80th birthday.
Hey.
Woo! What an enthusiastic response. With a career that includes Star Wars, Indiana Jones, The Fugitive, Blade Runner, Working Girl, the Jack Ryan films, Patriot Games, and Clear and Present Danger, and Air Force One, he has established himself as one of the all-time most iconic actors Hollywood has ever had. What are some of your favorite highlights in the career that is the birthday boy, Harrison Ford?
It is not. I mean, a lot of times we'll talk about a big star and we'll say one of the biggest stars in the world. Well, okay, that's great. With Harrison Ford, it's not a figure of speech.
No.
He is a top, easily in our sleep, a top 10 greatest movie star of all time, maybe top 5.
Yeah.
The guy is Han Solo and he's Indiana Jones. And he has played so many other single shot, iconic, memorable movies. And he always brings a strength and a subtlety to all of it. He can do it all. Now, has Ford's career been super hot the last 10? Well, maybe not in the last 10 years, whatever, but it doesn't. He's also been very selective about what he wants to do and when he wants to work and when he doesn't. And, when you're married to Calista Flockhart, good on you. I guess you can do that. I'd want to stay home a lot too. So, I mean, when you try to sit back and look at the career of Harrison Ford turning 80, which, by the way, by the grace of God, if all of us could look that good at 80 and be in the type of physical shape that he's in at 80. But when you look on his career, it's kind of like that image that came out from the Webb telescope the other day. You look at the vastness of the universe, you feel overwhelmed. When you actually start to contemplate the career of Harrison Ford, it's staggering. Because you're a Hall of Famer just for being Han Solo. You're a Hall of Famer just for being Indiana Jones. And I would suggest that you could take the rest of his films, split them in half, and you still have 2 Hall of Fame careers in and of themselves. It's absolutely nutty. Mm-hmm. And so you look at things like his Jack Ryan movies. I love his Jack Ryan movies. Air Force One, Witness.
Witness, he's so good in.
He's so good in Witness. Another movie, one of the most iconic sci-fi, maybe the most iconic pure sci-fi film of all time. I'm not even a big fan of it. Blade Runner, right? All that kind of stuff. I want to bring up 2 movies in particular, though, that aside from Han Solo and aside from Indiana Jones are the movies that my headspace goes to when I think of Harrison Ford. One is The Fugitive. The Fugitive is so fucking good. It's so good. Harrison Ford, I didn't kill my wife. Tommy Lee Jones, I don't care. And that scene is so good. That whole movie is so good. Like, it's thrilling and your heart's pounding and the whole thing. And it's a simple story of a man trying to prove his innocence and get revenge for the death of his wife while hunting a one-armed man. I mean, it's iconic and it's steeped. It's just so good. If you guys haven't seen, and I'm always surprised by how many people when I've talked to when The Fugitive comes up say, I never saw that. It is an older film. Guys, watch The Fugitive. It's awesome. Okay, so that's the one. I've got another one that I don't know is going to be on anybody else's list. And it's one of the rare remakes that Harrison Ford did.
This was going to be mine, I think.
Sabrina.
Yes! He's so good in it.
He's so good in Sabrina. And it's not just him. Julia Ormond, who, someday somebody's going to have to make a full documentary on the career of and what happened to Julia Ormond. Because there was a 3-year period where it looked like Julia Ormond was the next Julia Roberts. She was going to rule Hollywood for the next decade. And then suddenly she was gone. Like, she was in The First Night, and, she was in Sabrina, and she did a couple of things, and all of a sudden she was gone. But anyway, and Greg Kinnear.
He's incredible in it.
To me, is always going to be Captain Amazing. But then you look at him in that Jack Nicholson film, As Good as It Gets. He's like amazing in that too. There's the trio of them right there. The 3 of them in this movie is such delightful movie magic. And actually, there's a scene near the end where Sabrina's dad is actually Harrison Ford's driver. So Harrison Ford is chasing Julia Ormond to the airport, and he's got her dad driving him because he's a driver. And it's just quiet and awkward in the car. And Harrison Ford just says something like, you can say it. And all you do is see the dad's eyes in the rearview mirror saying, you don't deserve her. And I'm just like, oh, this movie's so good. And it's charming and it's funny. And it's sweet. It romances you. The movie romances you. I love this movie so much. Sabrina, one of the examples of when a remake can be even better than the original. And the musical score in it is incredible as well. It's just so good. And again, we could sit here all day with a huge laundry list of Harrison Ford movies. Obviously at the top for me is Star Wars, then Indiana Jones. But guys, for me, my 2 recommendations. Make sure you watch The Fugitive. Make sure you watch Sabrina. I stole a little bit of your thunder there, Chris.
That's okay.
But when you think of Harrison Ford's career now turning 80 years old,
Yeah.
what do you think of?
Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of this video, Babbel. For most of us, learning a second language in school wasn't exactly a high point for our academic careers. Being Canadian, I had to take like 8 years of French and I can barely string together a couple of sentences. But now, thanks to Babbel, the language learning app that has sold more than 10 million subscriptions, there's an addictively fun and easy way to learn a new language. Whether you'll be traveling abroad, connecting in a deeper way with your family, or you just have some free time, Babbel teaches bite-sized language lessons that you'll actually use in the real world. For me, being a Canadian that has moved down to Southern California, there's a lot of Spanish that's spoken around here, so I decided I wanted to learn Spanish. Babbel's 15-minute lessons make it the perfect way to learn a new language on the go. Other language apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective. With Babbel, you can choose from 14 different language lessons, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German, and many others. There are so many ways to learn with Babbel. In addition to lessons, you can access podcasts, games, videos, stories, even live classes. Plus, it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee. Start your new language learning journey today with Babbel. Right now, you can save up to 60% off your subscription when you go to babbel.com/Campea. That's babbel.com/Campea for up to 60% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life.
Well, man, I mean, I think everyone you go into one camp of you either have a huge crush on Han Solo or you have a huge crush on Indiana Jones. I was Solo, which explained a lot of my dating career and also my marriage. I was like, oh my gosh, I love a scoundrel. I love him. Sabrina was really great for me. Working Girl, I think he's incredible in as well. I love him in that film too. You brought up The Fugitive, so I have to ask if you've seen John Mulaney do his Richard Kimball bit.
That's all I can think of now.
Right?
No.
Yeah. You have
oh
to
my
watch
God.
this. It's him. He's like, oh,
So
and
you
then,
can have Provasic?
yeah.
I have not. I love John Mulaney
It's
too.
so good. You have to watch him do this. We'll cue it up later. But I love that. And then, of course, I cannot get on a plane without thinking when everyone stands up at the same time, get off my plane. He's in so many iconic films. And yeah, Sabrina's one of those ones. I'm a diehard Audrey Hepburn fan, and I find myself constantly watching the remake instead because it's so good. And he became such a great kind of modern day Humphrey Bogart too. When you look at his career and the choices he's taken, I think he kind of filled that niche of that very like masculine curmudgeon-y man. But the best video you can watch of him by far is, having
Chris Angel?
Yep, get it when he gets mind freaked. Is it Chris
David
Angel
Blaine.
or is it David Blaine?
David
Yeah.
You're right. It's David Blaine. It is one of the great, if you guys haven't seen it, it is one of the greatest videos ever put on YouTube.
What?
Look up David Blaine, Harrison.
We're gonna
David
watch
Blaine.
so much weird shit today.
David Blaine is in Harrison Ford's his house with him and his wife's there and his kids are there, and he does a magic trick that ends with silence because a lot of David Blaine's magic tricks end with people going. Whoa!
Yeah.
It was
This
a pretty
magic trick ends. I'm not going to tell you what the trick is or what he does, but the trick ends like the reveal is done, the prestige is done, and it's just silence, and all you hear is Harrison Ford go, "Get the fuck out of my house." That's an image for it. Fact checkers up. It is the best video you will ever watch on YouTube. You've got to go and watch it. It's absolutely, and the trick is amazing.
It's great.
The trick is absolutely amazing. You got to check that out. Anyway, Amy, when you look at, on Harrison Ford's birthday
Yeah.
today, What stands out to you as you look back at his career?
I mean, first of all, I'm delighted by how undelighted he is by everything. Like, how much he just kind of resents Star Wars at this point, like, truly brings me joy. And I will say, to your point, I think very indicative of my dating career. If you said, like, as a kid, Han Solo or Indiana Jones, I was just like, yes, I'm not picky. Absolutely. No, when I think of Harrison Ford, honestly, it's just like growing up and it's like watching Star Wars and watching Indiana Jones. And then one of my favorite movies as a kid was American Graffiti.
Yeah.
And he's so fun in that. And it's just like, this is just the epitome of the coolest man in the room. Just like badass. And like, I feel like as a little girl, there's like those first guys where you're like, oh, he's got like a something. Like before you know what sexy is, like.
Before you learn about BDE.
Exactly.
As a
Yes.
toddler, you're not really
Yeah.
benefiting
But
from
he's
that.
like, you know, the first guy you kind of go, oh, wow, this is just the coolest man in any room. Just badass and unflappable and just has continued that just on and off screen. So love him.
I love the story. Speaking of American Graffiti, which was directed by George Lucas, and this is pre-Star Wars. And he didn't make a ton of money. So even after doing American Graffiti, he was still a carpenter. And they were doing screen tests for Star Wars. And Lucas wasn't really considering Harrison Ford, but somebody dropped out and they needed somebody just to come in to read opposite another actor they were screen testing. So they gave Ford a call. Said, can you come in and just read for this, just so we can have somebody read off this guy? And then they all just went, because Kurt Russell was almost Han Solo. Kurt Russell, there's screen tests out there. You can see Kurt Russell's screen tests.
That would have been pretty good, though.
Yeah.
But then they just saw Ford do it and they're like, yeah. But I mean, we didn't even talk about movies like Mosquito Coast, Regarding Henry. I'm glad you brought up American Graffiti. I mean, Working Girl. It's just, there's just so many. And now we've got another Indiana Jones movie coming, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Anyway, guys, the question is for you. Harrison Ford's birthday today. Dude is 80 years old. One of the most iconic figures in cinematic history. When you think of his career, now no cheaping out, obviously Star Wars and obviously Indiana Jones, but when you think of his career, what movies come to your mind? Whatever does, jump down to the comment section below and leave those there.